Estimates for today is that 60 people died in the capital, Tripoli, today. Stick around, you're with Al Jazeera. At 1800 hours GMT, this is live continuing coverage on Al Jazeera of the uprising in Libya. I'm Kamal Santamaria. Thanks for staying with us. It is about 8 p.m. in Tripoli, the capital of Libya, at the moment. As that uprising continues, it spreads, it gains momentum, and so many new developments which keep changing this story almost by the minute or the hour at least. We keep hearing developments. The country effectively cut off, phone lines have been cut, internet is down, information coming out of there extremely difficult to come by. But here are some of the fast-moving developments that we have got out of Libya. Reports that live ammunition was used on protesters in the capital, Tripoli. Backed up by someone we spoke to, he said there had been almost random drive-by shootings by what he called mercenaries, driving by in their four-wheel drives and firing live rounds out of the windows. Also reports, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, of fighter jets being used to attack protesters. Not these two, though. These were two which headed over to Malta. They were told to bombard the protesters in Benghazi, and the two senior colonels on board said, "We won't do it." They defected and headed to Malta instead, which is about an hour away. And then some international reaction we've had as well. The British Foreign Minister William Hague, he had information that the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi had fled the country and was on his way to Venezuela. Senior officials in Venezuela said simply not the case. That has not happened. William Hague, though, quick to condemn what has been going on in Libya. And more recently, we've heard from the US State Department as well. It's ordered all non-essential embassy staff and their family members to get out of Libya, basically, evacuate their buildings, leave, and they've told any Americans who are still there, be very, very careful. As soon as you see any sorts of demonstrations, make sure you head for shelter and get away, and if you can get out, do get out. And as we heard before, senior colonels from the Libyan military mentioned this before, defecting to Malta after they were ordered to bomb protesters, Libyan military jets landing in the capital, Valletta, in the past few hours. So those are some of the developments. So many, really, to take you through as well. Let's do that a bit with Salman Sheikh, who's stayed with us. He's from the Brookings Centre in Doha, the Brookings Doha Centre. I mean, what I've just given there is just a summary, but there's so much that's happened. And then other reports that Colonel Gaddafi's son is talking about a committee to look at what's happened in the last few days. The speed with which events are moving here is quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It does follow a little bit of a pattern of perhaps some of the other uprisings that we've seen, and it may be indicating that we're moving towards a bit of an end game now in this current crisis.
This soon?
Well, this is the incredible thing, but you have large parts of the country, the east, for example, which are no longer controlled by the regime, even though we're seeing continuing fighting. We're hearing, as you said, about defections from the diplomatic corps, from the justice minister. We're hearing about military aircraft. So this does point to a picture whereby which we may well be seeing an acceleration of the disintegration of the regime and the instruments that it has.
Disintegration, though, is a pretty strong word to use at this point.
Yes.
I'm going to continue on this point of the speed and all that, because for a regime that has been in power for 40-odd years and a man who has kept his control over his people for that long, to crumble in a few days?
Well, if your regime is built on coercion, it's built on fear, if it doesn't necessarily have the legitimacy of the vast majority of your people, which is what we are discovering, then this scenario is extraordinary, but it may well be happening in front of our eyes.
What do you make of these apparent defections of these two senior colonels from the Air Force?
Well, I think it is very significant, and it's extraordinary. It's bizarre that we're seeing something like this, but it does indicate, their story actually indicates perhaps what's going on the ground as well. Their testimony, from what we're hearing from your reporters, about refusing to fire on protesters, tells you sort of the stage where we've reached and why these pilots have taken this extraordinary steps.
Just a reminder, the pictures here that you're looking at are of those jets, just what Salman was talking about, the two jets which landed in Malta unannounced, only an hour, we're told, from Tripoli or from Libya by air. And these two jets, imagine this, two jets just suddenly flying into Malta, no clearance to land, they simply land, and two senior Libyan Air Force colonels get off those planes. They are detained immediately by officials and they say, look, we've defected, we just couldn't attack our own people. And then the other reports of French nationals being brought in by helicopter as well. That's why you're seeing pictures, still pictures here of planes that have landed in Malta, of all places. International reaction. Let's go back to that, because we mentioned earlier the British Foreign Minister William Hague, who said he believed the Libyan leader had fled the country. There have been plenty of developments on that and other international European developments concerning Libya. Felicity Barr's in London with those.
Yeah, thanks, Kamal. Yeah, William Hague earlier saying he had information that Muammar Gaddafi had left Libya and is on his way to Venezuela. Now, his words came as the British government summoned the Libyan ambassador to London. He spent some time at the Foreign Office in London before leaving a little earlier on. We can get the very latest now from our reporter, Roy Challens. He's outside the British Foreign Office. Let's deal with those comments from William Hague, first of all. What did he say?
Well, first of all, he said going against all the normal tame language regarding international diplomacy, he came up with some very strong words to describe what's going on in Libya at the moment. Deplorable and unacceptable is what he said. But also, he said then, a little bit later, some very, very interesting tidbits of information that he had seen some information which suggested that Muammar Gaddafi was on his way to Venezuela, that he had already fled the country. Now, the Venezuelan government has since said that that is not true, but it shows the kind of fluidity of this situation and what we're seeing here. But let's have a listen to what William Hague was saying when he was condemning what's happening in Libya earlier on today.
You asked me earlier on about whether Colonel Gaddafi is in Venezuela. I've no information that says he is, although I've seen some information that suggests he is on his way there at the moment.
So the British government is asking for several things from Libya. What it wants is an end immediately to all the violence that is happening there. It also wants an investigation into the killings that have happened so far. And it wants a commitment from the government there that there will be a concerted embracing of change, both political and economic. And if it doesn't see that, the British government says, then the international community will be holding the Libyan government to account for all its actions.
Well, as part of the condemnation from the UK, of course, the Libyan ambassador to London was summoned to the Foreign Office, where you are now, a little earlier on. And there was some confusion. There were quite strong rumours that the ambassador himself might have resigned. What's the latest you're hearing?
Well, the Libyan ambassador came here at about sort of 12 o'clock local time, midday, and he was given a fairly effective dressing down from diplomatic staff here. After that, there was some unconfirmed rumours that maybe he had stepped down from his position. But Al Jazeera has actually talked to the Libyan ambassador, and he has said that that is not the case, that he's still very much in his position, Felicity.
All right, Roy Challens reporting live there from outside the Foreign Office in central London. Thanks so much for that. So as we heard a little earlier, European Union ministers